Bring my guy Tone in. Tone, how you doing, my friend?
There we go. Got it. How you feeling?
Okay, Derek Gunn and B. Brooks.
Man, I'm pushing so many buttons back here. Sometimes it's ridiculous.
Like a space capsule back there.
For real.
Dude, you know, it's funny to hear. It's funny to hear people here. I'm gonna give you a bunch of questions. I started my show out with here. Let me do the Howie questions, and then I'll do what I just did here in a second. What's Howie's blame in this?
Ooh, that's interesting. What's Howie Roseman's blame in this? Well, he overestimated his defensive personnel. That was for one. I think that was the first misstep. The rest of the missteps happened in season. Thinking that Shaq Leonard was going to just automatically change the fortune of that linebacker room. Look, I admire the attempts, though. You know, he tried to get Kevin Byard. I admire the on-the-fly. Listen, we always say
positive look, yes, sir.
Yeah,
yes.
What we always say, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So you gotta take swings. So I'm never mad at a swing, but again, it goes back to the root of overestimating your defensive personnel. Obviously, we didn't anticipate the D line falling off like that. That's the one thing I didn't account for.
Yeah, me too.
I think that took everybody by storm, and I think that Sean Desai decision really came back to bite them really badly.
You know, Tone, it just seemed that this year he never gave himself any leeway. Like you're fixing the linebackers in season. You're changing the coordinator in season. All of that stuff was like, you know, usually a guy who was ahead of the game was playing from behind. You know what I'm saying? It just looked like, to me, his blame was it looked like he was playing from behind. And as I said to Jaws, you know, I think that February game, being late like that, hiring coordinators and, you know, the personnel when it came to free agency, I think the Eagles weren't prepared for the offseason.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I was thinking about what went into it and, you know, the late start they got. And overall, it just seemed like they were
behind,
one step behind every step of the way. And, you know, again, I just think the season has been plagued by a series of miscues and misevaluations. And especially being late. And, you know, sometimes you can't help it because, again, you were in the Super Bowl. So the whole coaching cycle pretty much passed you by.
Don't you think that Kansas City was a little late and that's what caused them? Because you know why? The adjustment without Bieniemy, they had to get the new receivers going. They were kind of behind, but they started rolling in the back end of the season. And they started getting it together towards the second half. I'll tell you what, Kelsey's playing the best football he's played all year in these two games.
Yeah, the same thing with that kid Rashee Rice as well. Yeah, that kid Rashee Rice, that wide receiver they drafted, he came on towards the end. It's funny. It's funny when you think about the Chiefs situation. It's very similar to last season. Last year they was banking on young defensive players stepping up on the back end, and eventually they got there. This year they were banking on young offensive players to step up, and eventually they got there, and now they're back in the Super Bowl. One thing I respect about the Chiefs organization that I wish the Philadelphia Eagles did more of is throwing their young people into the fire early. I don't know what it is about the Philadelphia Eagles.
I think 15 gives you that.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Playing with Patrick Mahomes gives you a lot
of trouble.
That's true. He gives you a lot of leeway.
Yep.
But still, even then, I just feel like they didn't put Nolan Smith out there quick enough. Nolan Smith should have been out there week one. Sidney Brown should have been out there week one, not Terrell Edmonds. You know,
that Terrell Edmonds thing never made sense to me.
It never made sense to me either. Keely Ringo, they should have found a way to get him on the field early. I just felt like they should have did a better job of trying to get the young guys ready in the event of anything. The only time they really put them on the field is when an injury happened and they were forced to put them out there. But like that doesn't, to me, if I'm a player, that doesn't signify you trust me. That means
that's
that you're
not
just
player development either.
right. You're just putting me out there because you need the body.
Yeah.
But when you put me out there, if I'm a player and you put me out there early, day one, you get me some reps. That tells me, okay, you're trying to get me going. You trust me.
Trying to develop me.
You know what I mean? I didn't get a sense of that. So
absolutely.
Go ahead.
Let me say something here before I move on here.
Yeah.
Do you agree with my assessment of Sidney Brown? Hey, man, he's a really aggressive guy, and you're not in a very aggressive defense. You know, you're talking about an aggressive guy who aggressively tackles. He aggressively runs to the ball. He's an aggressive football player.
Right.
And that's not really what it's control and contain kind of defense that Vic is. So, I mean, is he going to fit? That's one thing you got to keep an eye on, because not every player fits, Tone. We may like the player, and I do, but does he fit what they're asking him to do?
It's a fair question. What I'll say to retort to that is, Vic Fangio's been in the league for as long as he has for a reason, and that's because he's shown an ability to adapt and revamp what everybody's been trying to copy.
I believe you.
And so I say that to say, I think he would be able to find a place for a guy like Sidney Brown in his offense, and also look, the Eagles got to get younger on the back end anyway. They got to get younger. They got to get more athletic. So I think a guy like Sidney Brown, that should be par for the course. That mentality should be par for the course. Again, I think a guy like Vic Fangio, with his skill set, with his experience, he should have no problem being able to mold Sidney Brown to the player he needs him to be.
How about this one? Will Kellen Moore maximize Hurts's ability?
That's something I think about often. Here's my thing about that, because I speak about it all the time. As much as I love Jalen Hurts' current skill set, I think it's about time he starts expanding it, start adding on to it, start to reestablish that pocket presence.
Did he make that leap this year on the attempt to expand?
I'll say this:
the results weren't what you wanted, though, Tone. But he did.
I'll say this:
leap to another part of the game that wasn't him, really.
I get what you're saying. I'll say this: he threw the ball more, right, and
was just as accurate.
He was just as accurate. Now, obviously, the turnovers are an issue, but when I see a guy with a lot of turnovers and then I see a 70% completion percentage like a Josh Allen, or if I see a 65% completion percentage like a Jalen Hurts, I'm not saying, oh, they're not accurate. I'm saying, oh, they got to make better decisions.
Yes.
So I think the decision making was off this year. The accuracy was still above league average. So when it comes to Kellen Moore, I'm looking to Kellen Moore to help Jalen Hurts be more comfortable in that pocket, really utilize the entire football field. If you look at Jalen Hurts' pass chart from that playoff game against the Buccaneers, he threw maybe one or two passes in between the numbers. Other than that, all his passes were on the boundary. That tells me that he's not comfortable, period. If he was comfortable throwing those passes, he would throw them, right? He's not comfortable throwing across the middle.
He's not comfortable because he doesn't see the middle of the field.
Do you think now? Let me ask you this: we don't talk much about this because it's something that can't change. But do you think his height has something to do with it?
No, I'm going to tell you what happened. They rushed him. Here's what they do with great quarterbacks.
Right.
Even Mahomes, early in their careers, they roll these guys more. Why? So you can manage half the field from one hash to the sideline. Right. You're playing against the 12th defender over here called the sideline. So you can make a poor throw over here, go out of bounds, and all you have is an incomplete pass. Mm-hmm. You make that pass over the middle of the field, it's a pick in the NFL. So what they do is let get a chance. Montana did this. Everyone, Elway did this. They all rolled a particular way that they're comfortable doing. And you're looking at half the field. And then, Tone, as you get more comfortable seeing progression reading and you're starting to see more of the field, that field opens up more and you're more comfortable because you know where to go with the ball and pre-snap reads and you know what it looks like. So to me, what they did was they went from 21 to 22 and they saw that. Then they went from 22 to 23 and they assumed that he was going to. And I think they really just didn't take into consideration this is a process.
Right.
Don't rush the kid. Mahomes is still being developed.
Right. I'm willing to say when it comes to Jalen Hurts' development, as much as we look at his skill set and say, wow, you got to maximize and lean on that. If we're being completely honest with ourselves, if Jalen Hurts wants to last in his NFL and if he wants to really win big, he's got to win from that pocket.
He does.
He has to.
Absolutely.
And so bringing in Cliff Kingsbury probably would have made more sense. But does that truly take him to the next level? And I think that's probably what their mindset was with Kellen Moore. Everything that Kellen Moore does well, Jalen Hurts struggled with. And I think that's something they looked at, and they look at it as
so they want to make him into something that they want him to be instead of what he is.
When you frame it like that, it's almost as if they're being counterproductive.
Buyer's remorse. He didn't get that money because of the player you want him to be. He got that money because of the player he is.
I hear what you're saying. I think also that playoff game against the Chiefs, that Super Bowl game, when they saw him dealing from the pocket like that, I felt like that gave them this semblance of, whoa, he can do that.
But why was he able to do that, Tone? Because there was the threat. This last year, they took the threat away.
Right. So I think the threat should never disappear because at the end of the day, his athleticism is still his athleticism. The threat never goes away.
That's maximizing.
But it's okay. So it's how it's being used. And I think Kellen Moore, while trying to add on to Jalen Hurts' game, I think the challenge is going to be how creative can he be to keep Jalen Hurts in a comfort zone while still growing exponentially. That's going to be the challenge.
You've got to light that thread again.
Yeah.
Dude, 22, I say this to you all the time. The thing that stuck out to me the most, holy cow, that guy on 3rd and 11, he's getting that. Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a time. You know what? I thought he was more effective than the tush push on that play.
He also got to get healthier too. He has to get healthier. There clearly was a
that could have been more of a factor than what we thought. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a cleaning.
When you watch year 1 as a starter and year 2 as a starter, and you see the athleticism and how he was able to get out that pocket, and then you watch this year from the. I know some people want to say, "Oh, week 4, week 5." Week 1, he looked slow.
Yeah, he got hurt. I thought he got hurt in the Patriot game.
Week 1.
Remember when that linebacker hit him?
I
thought he got. I remember it was low hit on his knee. I thought he got hit in that game, and that may have started tenderizing him for the Jet game.
He looked slow in week 1. So again, I don't know what happened in that game, but overall, Jalen Hurts got to get healthy. He got to get back in the lab, and Kellen Moore, he has a lot of work ahead of him because ultimately, this offense. They got to get this offense back on track. On offense, it's not really a personnel issue at all. It's strictly execution and developing issue. They got to get Jalen Hurts back on track. Do I think he can get back on track? I do.
How about
I'm pretty optimistic about Jalen Hurts.
Got to do better pass routes.
Yes. Yo, Troy Aikman. This is why I love what Troy Aikman does because and he's not the only one to do it. Greg Olsen talked about it every time he spoke on the Eagles game. Every time I saw a commentator watching Eagles games and analyzing it, there was always at least 1 or 2 times in a game where you heard guys saying, why are these receivers so close to each other?
Yeah.
Why are these route concepts overlapping? Like these guys shouldn't be within 5 yards of each other. That's a pretty bad route combination. I heard that so many times throughout the season.
Horrible spacing.
Yes. If you want to look at it from a basketball perspective, it was horrible spacing.
It's just there wasn't it was confusion, and maybe that's one of the reasons why he couldn't read some of those patterns because they had multiple guys in multiple positions at the same time.
That's a good point. Maybe he couldn't make some of those throws
that they had. Tone, think of the route concepts that they had. How many times in the game did you see multiple times when multiple Eagle receivers
were in the same spot
place?
Yes.
And he's looking at that, and you're sitting back there. Again, it becomes confusing for the receivers and the quarterback because you're making split decisions. So, to me, I thought the poor spacing, the route concepts, the route trees, I just thought it was one-on-one basketball when I was watching that.
A lot of isolation. Like too often we saw Jalen Hurts drop back standing there for like 3, 4, 5 seconds, trying to direct traffic, trying to clear some space. Too often we saw that. And I don't bring that up to take the onus off of Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has a lot to clean up, going from the 2023 season to the 2024 offseason. But I look at that offense and I say, they didn't do him any favors. Again, I felt like he was looking at that offense when they was running plays, saying like, why are they so close? How can I make a play? How can I make a pass to a guy who looks open, but then we got another receiver within 5 yards, and I got two or three defenders within arm's reach? I mean, how can I really make that throw? So again, I'm not making excuses for him. He has a lot to do on his own, but also the coaches. We need to see what Kellen Moore can do to shake things up.
Now, these are kind of questions that I would ask Howie, and I'm asking you.
Okay, I'll pretend to be Howie right now. I'll put my crown on. I'll wear my cape. You know,
all right, simple. Here's
my gold chalice.
Here's the simplest one I could possibly. Oh, and you can put your size 4 shoes on. Okay. Hey, by the way, they don't really make suits for guys like you, guy. You got to like kind of go to the little kid section.
The children's place, is that what it's called? The children's place?
Yeah, the children's place where you get kind of like a matching jacket and pair of pants and a pair of slip-on PF Flyers. You don't even know what they are, but that's all right.
Oh, I know what PF Flyers. I know what PF Flyers are.
Oh, man, I loved them shoes when I was a kid, man. Here's a question. Okay, what led to the collapse, Howie?
Well, I did everything I could to give Nick Sirianni the pieces. That's something he'll say.
So it's the coach.
He'll flip it fast. He'll flip it fast.
Oh,
he's a lawyer. You know what he does. He's a lawyer.
Well, then, Mr. Roseman, how come I heard the coach all year long go, don't blame Brian Johnson. Don't blame Brian Johnson. Don't blame Brian Johnson. Don't blame Nick. Don't blame Sean Desai. Don't blame Sean Desai. How come those guys got fired and you survived?
Man, that's a hell of a question, Mr. Sileo. I'm so glad you asked that. I'm going to have to redirect. I'm going to have to redirect that to our guy Bob Lang to see what he says. So let me stop playing before I get us in trouble.
Honestly, what led to the collapse, Tone?
All right, I think honestly, they were ill prepared and they were on borrowed time. They were ill prepared. They were on borrowed time, and Howie Roseman overestimated the personnel on defense. I think those are the 3 things that went wrong. And whatever
and the inexperience of offense in the coordinating position.
Yeah, whatever magic Nick Sirianni had left, that thing ran out after 10-1, baby. Ran out.
He's 13-12 as a guy who's in charge of that offense.
When you put it that, when you brought that up at the last minute yesterday, I was kind of upset because I'm like, I wanted you to expand on that because that's a very interesting way to look at it.
Away at 2-5, and last year he was, as he said, it was his offense. So he gets the 11-7. Well, if you put it that way, he's 13-12 running the offense. He ain't that bullshit record that people throw out there and call him the best coach in the NFC East. He's 13-12.
I think
he's 1 game over 500 running the offense.
When you frame it that way, that makes you look at him a lot differently. Because when he's been
he was almost fired.
When you all year he kept saying, "This is my offense. This is my offense. This is my offense." I'm like, okay, all right, here's your offense. All right, okay, all right,
okay. You kept saying something all year. You're gonna bury yourself, guy. You keep going there.
Listen, I kept saying it all year. I'm like, all right, okay.
Oh no, he kept lighting himself on fire all week long doing that stuff.
And guess what? Somehow, some way, Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, put him out, and Brian Johnson had to wear that. So right now, Brian Johnson is without a job in the NFL. And we killed him all year, and Nick Sirianni survives the chopping block. You fired his whole staff, and Nick's still here. I've never seen that before.
Here's another one. Why are they so confident in Nick?
The same reason they convince themselves that they're confident in anything else. They bring up the record. That's what they do. When you're not being truthful, you fall on
deaf ears.
You choose a low-hanging fruit, and it's like, yeah, it's easy for me to say, oh, well, I mean, three back-to-back seasons of making the playoffs, and that record and all that kind of stuff. And my thing is, if you ask the Philadelphia Eagles, if you ask them, they don't even think that's a product of Nick Sirianni. They fired the Super Bowl when they had coach. What makes you think they think a coach has value?
How could a coach win 11 ball games and his entire staff fired, and he's on the hot seat? It contradicts itself.
It don't make sense.
It contradicts itself when the assistant coaches get fired, the head coach survives, he wins 11 games, and you change the entire coaching staff out. Doesn't that contradict a successful coach?
I've never seen anything like it.
That has a record like that, and that has been questioned about his leadership and direction of a football team. Can you name a guy?
Because if Nick had any real pull, they wouldn't have been able to fire his staff like that. They wouldn't have forced them to fire people like that. So this thing is it's unprecedented. But that's the kind of territory the Eagles like to live in. They love to break the mold.
Let me throw this at you. Did Howie Roseman in the last 2 years, 2022 and 23, has the Eagles developed their draft picks?
That's a good question. Let me look at the draft history real quick, because I want to make sure I answer.
How many of them are there?
Make sure I answer as honestly as possible. All right, here we go. So you said the last 2 years, so that's 2023.
Last 2 years, 22 and 23.
Okay, so
what players have they developed into frontline players?
So basically just starters? Is that what you mean?
Oh, anybody.
Okay, so
I want to know who in the last 2 years has contributed to the football team's success.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna roll with Cam Jurgens. I mean, he had some injuries, but he contributed.
I agree.
Jalen Carter, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Tyler Steen contributed when they called on him. He played in 11 games.
Contributed?
He played in 11 games this year. Whenever Jurgens or Dickerson went down, he came in and filled that void.
Was he good?
He was okay. He's a rotational. He's a
if
rotational
I don't notice
guard,
him, that means he must have been okay, because
no
one got killed when he was in there. Okay,
he was in that. He played in that first Cowboys matchup, and he was all right. He was okay. So I consider him to be a contributor, again, a rotational guy. We'll see if his future is starting right guard or not, but I have high hopes for him. So that's Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen. I said Jalen Carter, obviously. Jordan Davis, his athleticism. I mean, not athleticism. I'm sorry. His conditioning is my only real concern with him. But regardless of how we feel, he has contributed over the past 2 seasons.
Have you been happy with Jalen Carter as a draft pick with the Philadelphia Eagles?
I have, but ultimately, I feel like
he's giving you half a season in 2 years.
Wait, you said Jalen Carter? You're talking about Jordan Davis? Jordan Davis. Okay, yeah, no problem. Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis. Last year, I was very disappointed.
He's given you 8 games,
and this year, yeah, he kind of has. But when I look at him, though, I see a player, and I say, I'm not looking at your talent. I'm looking at your effort and your conditioning, and that's frustrating for me. But he has played. He's given him a lot of snaps. Say it again.
You're a combine guy.
Nah, I'm not a combine guy.
Well, you're talking to me about his athleticism. And
I'm talking about the first 8 games this season. Like you said, he gave you 8 games.
He was the fourth.
And I saw a guy who was flying off the line of scrimmage. So I'm looking at that saying, okay, what happened to that guy? So again, to answer your question candidly,
it was really like you said after that Bills rundown on Allen, man. It was like
he shot his load.
Last bit of gasoline.
That was the last bit of gas. Listen, from that point on, he was driving on 4 flats. 4 flats.
And he was like MIA after that, man. I mean, you even had Brian Baldinger going, he should not be dressing, not playing.
Yeah, so the guys I'm rolling with right now, as far as contributors goes, Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. Sidney Brown contributed, even though he had up and down year, but he contributed. He played a lot. Keely Ringo played.
The guy who played on the worst secondary in the league contributed.
Hey, he contributed to the losses. He played. He played.
You see, when you guys tell me that they're playing, and you're on the 32nd worst pass defense in the league, you're telling me that that's contributing. I'm looking at you going, oh, okay.
Hey, listen, you added something.
Oh, no. So wait, technically, he did contribute. Oh, Sills, hey, you want to go technically, Sileo? He did contribute.
He did contribute. I mean, he had a pick six. You know, he contributed. He played. You know what I mean? He got some time in. Keely Ringo played on the back end. You know, but overall, though, I think the better question is: is there anyone that I see a future with? I think that's the real question. Is there anybody I see a future with?
I'm not moving off of Jordan Davis,
and I'm not moving off Jordan Davis yet. You know, I like Carter for the future. I like Tyler Steen for the future. I like Cam Jurgens for the future. I like
Steen for depth.
I like Sidney Brown to an extent. I need to see more. I like Keely Ringo to an extent. Need to see more. But overall, I feel like they still haven't done enough on the defensive end in the draft.
Let me go here now. What is Kellen Moore's offense? What is this thing going to look like? What will the offense look like? What's basically the identity? You're going to throw the ball more? Going to run the ball more?
Well, they're definitely throwing.
Are we going to try to expand on 23? What are we going to do here? This is a question that I have now, not just for Howie, but for me going into the offseason.
Yeah. I have that question too. I have that same question. You know, I'm curious about what's going to be his game plan for getting the most out of your weapons and maximize. You know what? For me, I'm paying attention to how he gets Dallas Goedert involved, because in 23, the way Dallas Goedert was used was completely unacceptable. And then he got hurt, so that didn't make it any better. But overall, I wasn't a fan of how Dallas Goedert was being used in 2023.
He even said it.
Right. So I'm curious to see what Kellen Moore can do with a guy like Dallas Goedert, and you did obviously A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. We still don't know what the running back room is going to look like. But you know, I didn't really study the Cowboys and when he was there. But you know, just based off the rankings and the numbers, you know, he was productive with those guys. So I would like to think that his football mind can translate to Philadelphia. With, again, he has a lot of time. Let's be honest, how many coordinators go to back-to-back teams the way Kellen Moore has and has the weapons he's had to play with? Not often. So I think he should. That's the operative word. He should be able to thrive, you know, with these kind of weapons in the building.
Very optimistic.
I have to be. I'm still a fan at the end of the day, man. I got to be optimistic, man. Got to be.
All right. Here's another question I have.
I can't just be jumping off the cliff, man. Off the top.
I got it. Especially when you look at it. I mean, some of the things that they do and say, it just doesn't line up for me. Like here,
I get it completely.
Will Howie invest in the linebackers and in the linebacker spot, free agent or draft? So Howie in the last 5 years, hasn't drafted a linebacker in the top, higher than a third rounder. Do you think he changes that direction and takes a guy in the second round? Or do you think he stays status quo and tries to find another guy in free agency? Or he sticks with Zach Cunningham?
This is what I think he's going to do. I think he's going to re-sign Cunningham. I think he's going to sign another guy in free agency, and then he's going to draft a linebacker in the third or fourth round, and then say, "Oh, I handled the linebacker problem."
Status quo.
I think it's going to be status quo at the linebacker position, if I'm being completely honest. That's what I think. Because you know why? He hasn't proven that he even will move off it slightly under any circumstance.
What if Vic says, "I need a quality linebacker in there"?
If he says that, I hope Howie listens. That's all I can say. I hope he listens.
Well, shit, why'd you hire him if you're not going to listen to him?
Why they hire why did they do a lot of things? Come on, Serge, you answer your own question.
Hey, you got me. All right. Let's do this one. Will Howie take a safety high in the draft? Or will he go free agent there?
I think he goes free agent there. I think he goes free agent because
he believes in Brown.
Exactly. You know him. He looks at and also he believes in Reed Blankenship. He believes in those guys. So he's gonna add in a veteran.
Reed's my second team.
Right.
Because you know why? Think about it, Tone. If Reed Blankenship is on my second team, I've got a couple guys that are in there that are pretty good.
Right. That's not if Reed's my if
Reed is an upgrade.
Look, if Reed Blankenship is my big nickel safety,
yeah,
I'm cool with that.
Yeah. That's so am I.
Yeah, because I like Reed Blankenship.
Because you can hide him back there.
Mm-hmm.
When you got two other guys that can play.
They have 9 draft picks, right?
I think so. Yes, they do. Let me see here. Yes, they have 22, 50, 55, third, 4 5s, and a 6th.
I think knowing the Philadelphia Eagles, they're going to reload on the trenches in the O-line because they're nervous about the Kelsey Lane Johnson thing. I could totally see them drafting O-linemen, edge rushers, corners. The linebacker and the safety thing is where it gets a little tricky for me. But if I was them in the first round, I would go best available in the first round. That's what I would do. What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on that? Because they need talent, in my opinion, on that whole defense. If it's a linebacker, if it's an edge rusher, if it's a safety, a corner, I'm going best available.
Okay, here are the guys that are going to be around 22. Because I'm looking at corner, safety, believe it or not, a running back. Corner. I'm not saying running back in the first at all.
Right.
But what I'm saying is running back around like that 55th pick. I wouldn't be adverse to going with Jonathan Brooks from Texas. Something like that. Or trading back and getting another 2. If Brooks is still there and getting him down towards the 3rd and maybe using that 3rd pick on him. They need a back, dude. And they're not going to spend money in free agency.
No, they're not.
They're just not going to spend money out. They're not going to go, here's $6 million. You know, people are like, oh, Dirk. They're not. If they didn't do that last year, they're never doing that.
That's what I'm saying. If they didn't give the money to Miles Sanders, a guy they drafted, a guy that knows their system, knows what's expected, knows how to operate in the RPO, if they didn't give it to him, why would I ever think they're going to pay DeAndre Swift? Why would I think they're going to spend real money on? I do not believe them.
What they could do,
whoever says
sign Swift.
The only way they have a chance at signing, here's the thing: the only way they have a chance at signing Swift is if he tests the open market.
Yeah,
and
it's deep
because it is very deep. The only way they have a chance is if they let him go out there, test open market, and then if he comes back or they figure out that okay, you're not getting 6 or 5, and then they settle on a 2-year deal.
Tone, I think he's 6th man in line.
You mean out of all the
like 6 or 7 man in line there. I mean, you got to start looking at it. You're kind of in the middle of the room.
Mm-hmm.
Is the grass greener on the other side? If I take $1 million more versus what they're going to pay me at $1.5 million less than I'm getting offered in the open market, then you got to look at opportunity. They ran the offense a lot through me.
Mm-hmm.
Is my opportunity going to be somewhere else on a shittier team?
Right, and then Kellen Moore,
quarterback.
And then Kellen Moore, he did a really good job with Tony Pollard in 2022.
And Austin Eckler.
Yeah, Tony Pollard had a down year under Mike McCarthy. He was at his best under Kellen Moore. So maybe DeAndre Swift looks at it as maybe an opportunity, like you said, for me to continue to expand my role in this offense. It's all a possibility, but overall, I'm not betting on them being able to bring back DeAndre Swift. If you ask me today, are they bringing back DeAndre Swift and knowing what I know about his market value, I would say no. I think they draft the guy. Honestly, I think they draft the guy.
For whatever reason, at that 22, I see Kool-Aid. I see the kid from Bama there.
Yeah. I was looking at some of his stuff and reading up on him, man. I like that guy, man.
Me too.
I'm sold on him.
And think about
if he's there at 22,
he's played against.
He played against top tier dudes.
All the dudes you see in the NFL, he's covered.
All those guys, all the SEC guys, all of them. And me personally,
and that's where all the wideouts are coming from now.
I put a lot of stock in that. Now, every now and again, you have a guy that played in Cincinnati, like a Sauce Gardner.
Correct.
Every now and again.
But that's a crapshoot.
But that's a crapshoot. I would much rather take my chances finding a corner in the SEC rather than where's Cincinnati? The big, what is that?
It was Mid-America. I think now they're, if I'm not mistaken, I think they're in the Big 12 or in the ACC.
Okay. So
the conference alignment and the changing of the conference.
It's a lot of movement.
They were in Conference USA.
Okay. Yeah. So overall, every now and again, you find a Sauce Gardner from a school like that. But I'll much rather take my chances on somebody who's been guarding the best receivers.
Like get this, finding Jerry Rice at Mississippi Valley State.
Or Derek Stingley. Derek Stingley was in LSU. He guarded the best guys.
You're like getting a guy, like I said, like Jerry Rice at Mississippi Valley State versus recruiting in the SEC. You're gonna miss on Jerry Rice. But you know what I'm gonna do every time I need a wideout? The chances of me landing on a wideout that's going to be productive for my offense is going to be higher because they're the top recruited kids. They play against the top flight kids in the country. They get the best coaching. Remember what you've got when you're going through draft analysis here, Tone. The SEC offers just this to a kid. If you land out as a starter at any one of those 10 schools, you're getting the best coaching. Now 12. You're getting the best coaching. You're getting the best talent you're playing against. The guys you're playing with and going against in practice. Hey, can you imagine being in an Alabama practice if you're Kool-Aid and you're going against Devontae Smith as a sophomore? I mean, and you're going against Jalen Waddle as a sophomore?
And John Mechie and Jamison Williams and all those guys.
All them guys. Yeah. You're going against them, and then you turn around and play George Pickens at Georgia.
Yep.
I mean, that matters to me.
Yeah, I hear you on that, and I'm totally with you. That's why I do like that kid Kool-Aid at that spot. If he's there, I think they should take him. Like my biggest fear is that my biggest fear is that the Eagles are going to overthink this draft. They're prone to do that.
You think they would trade out of that pick and get more? Get this. I'll tell you what.
Are you implying they trade up? Or trade back
down to get more seconds. You trade out of that 1 at 22, and you get 2 twos and a 3.
Are you saying that
a quarterback lands there at 22 that a team is desperate for?
That's interesting because the Eagles historically have done a pretty good job drafting second round and down.
Yeah.
And also you're looking at it like, okay, what if the guy I want is not there? I got a better chance of landing on some quality guys in that high second round.
And filling more holes that you need to fill in that back end and that linebacker. And how he's going to feel more comfortable with 3s and 4s to be able to go grab them backers.
And also, you're more prone to reach at that spot.
And you're cheaper.
Yeah. You're more prone to reach at that 22 spot. So if you trade back, then you can get some assets for your trouble. And they can probably live in that second round if they do it right.
Deep.
If they do it right.
Yeah, look, you know what, Tone? It's funny you said something there that most people look at and why they value and they overvalue first round picks. Doesn't it ever bother people when you look at the great teams that are always picking in the bottom end of the draft, like Baltimore during Brady's time, Patriots, the Packers, the Eagles? Those guys aren't reaching. It's best player available at the need position on your team. And most of the draft board after the first 15 falls in line. In the top 15, you're traditionally reaching for shit.
Right.
And you rarely get this. Look at what Nick Caserio's doing. This year, by the way, the NFL Honors Awards came out. Will Anderson's the Rookie of the Year. Head coach is DeMeco Ryans. And the Offensive Rookie of the Year is C.J. Stroud. Very rarely do you land on all of that.
Back-to-back seasons where the same team has the offensive and defensive Rookie of the Year. They just did it last year. But they
added Coach of the Year to that mix.
Right. They added Coach of the Year to that mix. That's rare air. It's rare air.
Look at what Nick did. And Nick was in New England all them years. There's no coincidence, Tone, that guy was part of personnel decisions being made in New England.
Listen, let me say this.
And when they lost him, they lost the guy who had the eye for the talent when it came to evaluating 2, 3, 4, finding a guy for Nico Collins, finding a coordinator like the kid who they got there who they're coming back, that Slokey guy, whatever. I mean, dude, they have done a great job at retooling that organization after the mess. And the McNair family's not really known for being quality owners. And they have turned that thing completely around, man. Let me ask you this one. Will the defense be aggressive or the same this year?
Will the defense be aggressive or the same? Well, I hope they're not the same because they were bad. But
same text, but the same.
As far as mentality goes, let me ask you this real quick before I answer. What's been Vic Fangio's MO in terms of aggression versus control and contain? What do the Philadelphia Eagles really want to accomplish? Control and contain.
And get home with your front four.
Yeah, I think they're going to be more like they have in the past, control and contain. Again, remember, the one thing we didn't account for going into this season was the defensive line not showing up. We did not account for that at all. I don't think anybody can say with a straight face, oh, yeah, I knew the D-line would fall off. No one thought that. The Eagles' D-line was coming into the season as being top 5 ranked, and when you add Jalen Carter to the mix, everybody was like, yo, this D-line is going to be unstoppable. Well, you know, week 12, week 13 came in. All of a sudden, they became stoppable. So I think they're going to be status quo in defense. I just think what they're doing, though, what I think you're going to see, though, I think the difference you'll see, I think you'll see better execution and better teaching because you're getting the raw truth, the raw answers from the source. So and often,
coaches,
right? And you have a better group of experienced guys in the building teaching these guys. So yeah. I think we're going to see improved execution. We're going to see improved knowledge of where they're supposed to be. It's still going to be a talent discrepancy because I don't think this is a one-year fix. But at bare minimum, I think this defense should be able to go from being one of the worst to at least being ranked 15th.
Martin, I like that kid from Oregon. I do. Is Howie getting a pass?
I think he is. He gets passes every year. He's for a guy to survive. He survived Andy Reid, Chip Kelly, Doug Peterson, and now he's potentially going to survive Nick Sirianni and maybe bring another head coach in the next couple of years. He's been getting passes all his whole time here. The only time he got any kind of negative energy was when he got thrown in the closet. But other than that, he's been getting passes the whole time. What GM Howie Roseman is one of the most unprecedented things we've seen in sports. I can't think of any general manager that survives the amount of head coaches that he has survived.
No, Yale, I don't want to fire Laurie. I mean, I don't want to fire.
That's not what this conversation is about.
I want his job title redefined.
I want more checks and balances for him.
Yeah,
that's what I want.
I want his job title redefined. Stick with the books. Stay out of the coach's room.
No, he's
know your
great.
role. You know what
he's
he does?
Great with contract.
He doesn't know his role.
Yeah, I think Jeffrey Lurie has given him too much leeway to the point where he thinks he actually knows football. And I'm not sitting here saying I'm a savant in football. No, but I know my limitations as a person. When it comes to Howie Roseman, he's great at building contracts. He's great at keeping your books in order. He's great.
He's really good at pro personnel.
He's great at pro personnel. He knows how to find disgruntled players looking for a new place. He knows how to navigate that wire where you have young players on the final year of their rookie deal or players on the final year, whatever deal they're on. He knows how to manipulate those kind of situations. He's a very good deal maker, trader. He's the kind of guy I send in with the mafioso and say, listen, make this deal happen. He's that kind of guy. But I'm not sending him in to keep an eye out for, the feds. You know what I mean? I don't trust him to find a rat, but I trust him to make sure the books are in order. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally, man.
So I don't trust him with personnel. I just don't trust him with the drafting. I don't. Not consistent. He hasn't been a consistent winner in the draft. And drafting is hard to do in and of itself. I will admit that. It's not an exact science. But damn it, he makes it look like it's easier than what it actually is.
I like this guy's comment here. I never thought about that before I asked you the last question here.
Where is it? Let me find it. Where is it?
This guy right here. This guy Help with 100%. Have you ever seen Brett Veach on TV?
That's a good point. Never.
Have you ever seen him in public with the Chiefs?
Only time I see him is when they're in the Super Bowl.
Right. I don't hear him. I don't see him. He's never out front. It's a great point. He's never. I don't even know what he looks like.
That's a great point, man. Thing. It's a great point.
Hey, I know you know what he looks like because he was in Philly a little bit there with Andy. But for me, Tone, I have no idea what he looks like.
The only reason I know what he looks like is because I saw him at the last Super Bowl when they won. That's the only reason I know what he looks like. Only reason. The Chiefs.
And there's Howie front and center waving. I didn't see a lot of waving this year, but last year I saw him at the Indianapolis locker room saying, "Here's my guys. Here's my weight." Can pat the coach on the back of the neck.
One thing I will say though, I do appreciate that Jeffrey Lurie doesn't. He's not always being seen like Jerry Jones is.
Yeah,
I do appreciate that part. Now I need Howie Roseman to kind of take a page out of that book and just fall back. Now I know mid-season you don't see him, but except for after games, shaking hands, smacking asses.
On the side,
you know what I'm saying?
On the sidelines or in the box with the binoculars, looking at Kenny Pickett. Jesus, that frightens me.
You want to know the one time? You want to know the first time I saw John?
One time I see him with binoculars, he's looking at Kenny Pickett. I went, okay, that's all I need to know.
Listen to this. You want to know the first time I saw? Well, I knew what Jalen looked like, but you want to know the first time I saw him last year? The first time I saw him is when they smacked the hell out of the Eagles in Philly. He made sure he came out the box for that. he was walking on the sideline, slapping hands, giving handshakes like they won the Super Bowl. Oh man, John Lynch is a hell of a GM.
He is, man. He's done a nice job there. I got one last question for you. What are you going to do with Reddick this offseason?
I don't know if they can afford to lose a pass rusher like him right now. That D line coming off the season they had, I don't know if they can afford to really lose pieces on that line. I would like to think Howie Roseman goes into those conversations trying to restructure and extend. But what kind of number is Hassan Reddick looking for?
20.
His estimated market value was not 20.
I know. It's
15.8, 50.9. And I'm not saying that
stuff like Clowney did 3 years ago.
Look, I'm not saying that estimated market value is law, but Spot Rack and Over the Cap, they do a pretty good job of gauging these things. And I have a hard time especially at this point, at that age, I have a hard time believing someone's giving him 20 a year. Have a hard time.
So you restructure, give him more money up front, cut that salary down from 15 down to 8, cut it in half.
Yeah. And listen, I'll put it to you this way. I feel more comfortable, not saying that I would give him this money, but if I had to give somebody $20 million, I'm giving it to Sweat because he's younger. And I can bank, and also he's built like your prototypical edge rusher. I like his size. I like how rangy he is.
I played 1,000 reps almost.
Yeah, he played like 850, 880, something like that. It was crazy.
Man.
Yo, I did not know this. Did you know Aaron Donald played over 1,000 snaps the year they won the Super Bowl? That was the one and only time. He played like over 90% of the snaps that year.
Wow. No wonder he got 30.
No wonder he got 30.
He got $30 million that year.
Yo, like throughout his career, he averages about 90% of the snaps played.
That's really awesome.
Aaron Donald. That's insane.
That's really tremendous.
No one thinks about that.
You were fantastic. We're going to get Merrill Reese on.
Yes, sir. I'm excited about that. I appreciate you.
Merrill wasn't very kind to the team too at the end.
No, he wasn't. Let's hope he keeps that same energy.
He really wasn't. He was disappointed in the way the team fell apart at the end. So
could you blame him though?
No, because you're 10-1, you're 10-2. And like I said earlier, Tone, hey man, I saw the 49ers get rolled by the Ravens and the Bengals.
People lose.
Got rolled. But like you and I were saying, dude, you can't get beat by Tyrod Taylor.
You can't lose to the Cardinals. You can't at home. You can't. You just can't do that.
What were the Cardinals? A 3-win team?
Yeah, something like that. They were bad. You can't lose those games. You just can't. So that's why I say with a straight face, how can I believe he didn't lose that locker room? How? You lost to the Cardinals and the Giants. How?
I'm gonna push back a little bit.
You go, my man. I love you, go. We just disagree right there. I love it, man. You go.
I wish you were. I would slap. I go. When I heard that, I went. I said, this guy's going places. All right. Hey, Tone, great stuff as always, my friend.
I appreciate you. It's always fun.
You got it. That is our good friend, Tone. And as I advertise, Merrill Reese will join us at the bottom of the hour. Keep it here on the National Football Show.